Hanho's father is quite overjoyed by his new pioneer class. Hanho's mother picked a 1-star chef card, and Hanho tells her she should have picked a class which could have helped them during their fights. Hanho parents become sad after hearing it because they raised Hanho for 20 years and now their son wants them to fight. Jisoo-yoon picked a 3-star hitman card. Her new passive skill, Supreme Sense, heightens her senses whenever she's in danger. Jisoo-yoon thinks she needs to become stronger so she can be more helpful to Seongwu. Seongwu asks Hanho's father to explain the skills of Pioneer. This skill costs 10 mana after every 10 minutes to create a safe zone whose surface area is 2,150 square feet and its height is limited to 33 feet. Once the user runs out of mana, this skill starts consuming 100 gold per every 10 minutes. The shield around the zone regenerates over time, but it can be destroyed by powerful attacks. Seongwu tells them that they can't afford to use this skill right now and they will only use it for emergencies. Seongwu further tells them that the other groups with Pioneer will try to abuse their power, and Seongwu's party will stay away from them. Meanwhile, the wyverns have rested enough and they take off. Seongwu asks Hanho to check the location of a store or a roulette machine on the forum, because he needs to spend his gold and get stronger. Soon, they hear motorbike sounds and they become alerted. Seongwu has an idea. They will ask the motorbike punks about the location of the store. It turns out these delinquents were stuck in a meat shop while they were waiting for the wyverns to go away. Their leader, Tesson, is a level 6 fighter, and he needs a little bit more gold to spin the silver roulette this time. Tesson arrives at his hideout, but is suspiciously quieter than usual. When he gets inside a room, he finds his friends there, but they are quite sad about something. One of them tells Tesson that their friend Yujin had not collected enough money, so the vampire made her into a lesser vampire. Tesson becomes quite sad after seeing his friend as a lesser vampire. There's another vampire present in the room, and he asks Tesson why he killed his previous leader, Woo-sok. Tesson replies that he had no other choice because their previous leader, Woo-sok, had turned into a complete vampire and he killed many people. The vampire informs Tesson that he will kill all of them next if they fail to gather 10,000 gold within 2 days. Suddenly, Seongwu comes in with his party, and he is not happy with the customer service provided by these thugs. Vampire asks what they want, and Seongwu replies he wants everything they have. Vampire becomes pissed, and his fangs become visible. After seeing his fangs, Seongwu mistakes him for the real boss of thugs in H apartments. Vampire rushes at Seongwu, and his minions get a hold of his hands. Seongwu stabs the throat of the vampire, and he warns the vampire to not move, or else his head will fly off. Seongwu asks him if he is the vampire lord, and he starts laughing. Vampire is quite powerful and he breaks the skeletons holding him with his hands. He also mends the sword piercing his throat with his bare hands. He tries to go for Seongwu again, but this time he gets hit by Hanho's daggers. Jisoo rushes at the vampire and chops one half of his arm. Vampire tries to regenerate his arm, but he gets burned halfway due to Jisoo-yoon's fire whetstone effect. Jisoo attacks the vampire once more, and this time she completely severs the burned arm of the vampire. Vampire is about to get back at her by throwing the sword piece stuck in his throat, but she manages to dodge it thanks to her newly acquired skill, Supreme Sense. Due to the new skill of Seongwu, his minions become more buffed and the vampire gets 10 times weaker. Orc skeletons start mashing the vampire with their bare hands. Vampire can't bear any more beating and he yields to Seongwu's party, but in reality he is just pretending to give up so he can somehow finish Seongwu once he drops his guard. Seongwu is not a child and he sees through his lie. Seongwu makes bone spears which pierce the vampire, rendering him motionless. Seongwu asks the vampire if he had enough or he wants more piercing. Vampire tells Seongwu that even though they managed to defeat him, but soon the day will arrive when their boss's true plan will come to fruition and the likes of Seongwu will be wiped out. Seongwu had enough, so he tells Jisoo-yoon to finish off the vampire and she receives 322 gold for killing a player. Tesson is quite surprised after witnessing the fight and he begs for mercy. He tells Seongwu that he had nothing to do with that vampire. Seongwu tells him that it doesn't matter and they should hand over everything they got. Hanho tells Seongwu that these third-rate thugs had less gold than what he expected. Jisoo-yoon thinks that maybe this vampire was connected to the vampire at H apartments. Seongwu tells them that the vampire boss is growing in power and he is quite crafty. He is using these lesser vampires to collect gold for him. Seongwu is afraid because the vampire they killed had the ability to turn other humans into lesser vampire, and soon the vampirism will spread like a virus. Seongwu needs to become stronger because they can barely defeat a single vampire, and if they get attacked by multiple vampires at once, they will be wiped out. Seongwu asks Tesson if there's a store nearby, and Tesson happily leads the way, but suddenly a red system message window pops up. There's a question in this message, and it is asking about what should be done to those people who were arrogant enough to not pick any card during second-class selection for players. Seongwu has a bad feeling about it. Suddenly, a delinquent named Min-sik becomes afraid because he had not chosen any card during second-class selection. He never trusted the system, that's why he didn't choose anything. He tells Tesson that he is not only the one. Jae-hee also didn't pick any card. Another red system message pops up. The system is going to turn all those people who have not picked any cards into monsters. Min-sik is about to be turned into a monster and he tells others to run away from him. Seongwu is afraid because once they completely transform into a monster, they will not stand a chance against them. Seongwu tells others that this is their only chance and they should attack them. Righty and his other minions rush at both of them before they can complete their transformation. Seongwu is a bit hesitant, but he has no other choice. His minions start attacking them, but a skeleton soldier dies with a clumsy hit from a werewolf, and it proves that Seongwu was right, and they need to die before they can fully transform into a monster. Finally, Seongwu's minions manage to kill both of them, and Seongwu receives 6,000 gold for killing them, and his level rises up to 8. Seongwu is astonished because the werewolves they killed outside Hanho's apartment were just 240 gold coins, and these werewolves, which were not even fully transformed, are worth 3,000 gold each. Seongwu selects random stats cards as his level up award and his speed increases by 3. Hanho is afraid because now they have to fight against powerful monsters like these werewolves. Seongwu has a plan. Up until now, he has never tried to make a dead human into his minion because he thought others will have a bad impression of him. But now the situation has changed. Seongwu successfully turns both werewolves into his minions. He thinks both of them are at least on par with vampires. Tesson is a bit worried because Seongwu turned his dead friend into his minion. Seongwu again asks him about the store and he tells Seongwu that the store is in a used car complex. Tesson's group only used to steal gold from others, but the group occupying a used car complex is working directly under the vampires, and they kidnap humans for the vampires. When they arrive at the car complex, Seongwu feels like something is wrong because this place is too quiet and there are no guards around. Tesson's vampire friend is also tagging along with them. They hear screams from close by. They start silently observing the situation. There is a bear monster and a vampire going toe-to-toe. Bear is punching the vampire like a training bag. Someone notices chains on the hands of the bear. It turns out that bear was a human, and he couldn't select a class because his hands were tied. And then he turned into a bear and killed the other vampires. The last vampire again attacked the bear with its fangs, and manages to injure it a little bit. At this point, both the vampire and the bear are at their limit. Both of them plunge at each other, but they get instantly wiped out by Seongwu's werewolf minions. He receives 3,500 gold for killing the bear, and he turns him into his minion. Hanho spots the same bus Kyung-soo, the spearman from school, was driving. Jisoo thinks they were kidnapped by these vampires. Taesung is about to tell them the store's location, but his friend Yu-jin, which was previously turned into a vampire, has been possessed by real vampire boss. He is here to watch who has been killing his children. Vampire Lord gets to the point and tells Seongwu that he is a mere insect. He then uses his ability to inflict a lesser curse on Seongwu. Now Seongwu needs holy magic to analyze and neutralize this curse. Vampire Lord starts spouting bullcrap, and Seongwu kicks him with all of his force. There's a small red curse mark left on Seongwu's hand, but it is not affecting Seongwu for now. Hanho is a priest, so maybe he can help Seongwu with his curse. Hanho tries to lift Seongwu's curse, but his ability is too weak. Seongwu has been marked by the Vampire Lord's exclusive skill, Trace of Blood, and his location will be exposed to the Vampire Lord after every 12 hours. Seongwu's unique circumstances have triggered a special quest called No Country for Wicked Men. He has to eliminate the Vampire Lord, and he will receive 30,000 gold and a C-rank item ticket for completing this task. Vampire Lord will not stop scheming against Seongwu until one of them dies. They move to the D-rank store, and it seems to be a bit different than the roulette machine they found in school. Seongwu goes first, and he has one unlimited rank roulette ticket. It was the reward he received after he killed 100 orcs in the school, but he is saving that ticket for later. Seongwu clicks on 10,000 gold option, and 3 more options pop up. Seongwu clicks on first place prize ball, and he receives 5 balls. After using them, he receives a legendary rank master craftsman rank skill coupon. After using the coupon, he got an exclusive masterclass skill called Refuge in the Void. This skill costs 0 mana and it creates a space for his minions to rest and recover. He can summon his minions to his current place at any time. There is also a sub-skill called the Great Spirit. If Seongwu summons multiple minions simultaneously, it will trigger the Curse of Death to spread in the area. Its range and effects will increase as his number of minions increases, and this skill has a cooldown of 1 hour. Hanho and Jisoo-yoon are amazed by Seongwoo's luck. Seongwoo uses his skill to return his minions to the void. This skill is quite useful, and now he can move around without making others afraid of his minions. Hanho and Jisoo-yoon are not as lucky as Seongwoo. Jisoo-yoon got B rank survival package, and Hanho got a normal armor called Tough Bullhide Cuirass. Now we move to another location where Spearman Kyung-soo Lee is standing around many dead bodies. He is regretting his decision of parting ways with Seongwoo party outside college campus. They managed to arrive at the military base in the past, but it was already destroyed. Other survivors started panicking after watching the current situation of military base. All of their criticism was pointed towards Spearman Kyung-soo because he was the one who suggested the idea of going to the military base. One of Kyung-soo's friends tells him about the Hwasong Fortress, and Kyung-soo decides to head over there. But it was a bad decision, because what awaited them were monsters in human guise. One of the vampires kicks Spearman Kyung-soo and tells him he will take him to the kitchen and make him into food if he stops working. Spearman Kyung-soo is skeptical because he knows these vampires are going to get rid of him once they find some other replacement for him. Vampires are putting the human survivors in a building, but suddenly their path gets blocked by no one other than Righty. Righty challenges one of the vampires. Vampires think of Wright as just a new weak type of monster, and they rush toward him. It was a trap, and the vampires started getting nailed by bone spears. One of the vampires is still confused about the current situation. Soon, Seongwoo minions jump out of the void. Spearman Kyung-soo becomes happy after watching Seongwoo, and Seongwoo is also happy after seeing him alive. Kyung-soo thinks Seongwoo has grown much stronger than the last time they parted ways. The vampires are still confident they can win. Seongwoo tells his minions to kill everyone and just leave one vampire alive so he can interrogate him. Spearman Kyung-soo thinks even Jisoo-yoon has gotten stronger, but he is skeptical about Hanho's growth, who is hiding behind Righty. Last remaining vampire begs them to spare her life. Seongwoo asks the vampire about the exact number of players and vampires inside the factory, as well as details about their levels. They have a level 5 vampire manager inside. There are 12 players working with them, and the highest one is on level 4. Seongwoo thanks her for being honest, but he is still not going to spare her. She keeps begging for her dear life, but Spearman Kyung-soo stabs her from behind. After taking revenge for his friends, Kyung-soo starts crying, and he's missing his friends who were killed by the vampires. Seongwoo tells him that he did the right thing. The world has changed, but they cannot let scums like these vampires roam free. Inside the factory, some hunters tell the vampire manager that they have been capturing humans as they ordered, but they don't know how much longer they can keep this up. Vampire manager tells them that these humans are easy to capture, and they are their means of food and experience. Once the real plan of their leader comes to fruition, they are going to become the apex predators in this new world. The human players become happy because they will also be turned into a vampire if they keep it up. Seongwoo comes inside and tells them that they are all delusional creeps. Vampire manager asks him about his identity. The school survivors in the cages become happy after watching Seongwoo. Vampire manager becomes pissed and tells them to shut up. Vampire manager tries to be cocky, but Seongwoo is ready to pit him into his place using his skills. Soon, the vampires and players become engulfed by black smoke. Vampire manager and players are confused about the current situation, and they become inflicted by Curse of Death, which reduces their stats drastically. Seongwoo's minions start rushing towards the players. Vampire manager tells them to calm down, and they just need to get rid of Seongwoo and his skeletons will stop working. Vampire manager tries to go directly for Seongwoo, but Hanho throws a bottle filled with slime liquid to his face. Jisoo-yoon rescued the survivors by cutting their cages with her sword. Spearman Kyung-soo comes inside riding his bus, and he tells the survivors to get inside. Vampire manager is pissed by the current situation, but Righty jumps on him and cuts off one of the arms of vampire manager. The vampire leader was observing the fight through vampire manager, and he lends some of his strength to him. Vampire manager turns into a high-level vampire and he activates Berserk skill. Hanho becomes afraid after witnessing the true form of vampire manager. Vampire manager tries to rush at Seongwoo, but his minions surround him. Vampire manager destroys one orc skeleton with a single attack, but he also gets attacked from behind by a werewolf skeleton. Vampire Manager punches the werewolf skeleton with all of his might, but he gets slashed from behind by another werewolf. Jisoo-yeon jumps toward him, and she manages to slash the back of the Vampire Manager. Jisoo grabs Righty and throws him in the direction of the Vampire Manager, and he manages to land a little slash attack on the vampire as well. Two orc skeletons try to attack him from behind, but they get easily wrecked by the vampire. Seongwu revives other dead monsters in their place, but he is worried because he thinks he's going to run out of corpses before Vampire Manager's berserk skill runs out. He's just a subordinate of Vampire Lord, but Seongwu and his party members are having a difficult time dealing with him. Seongwu gets a bit lucky because he notices a dead Cerberus corpse lying around. He resurrects the Cerberus, and all of his werewolves receive a lot of buffs because of Cerberus skills. Werewolves manage to pin down the Vampire Manager. Seongwu tells him to convey his message to their boss and that their business in Hwasong has gone bankrupt. Seongwu receives 10,000 gold for killing a special player. Seongwu tries to resurrect the Vampire Manager, and he succeeds in his first try. A message pops up that Seongwu can now revive the memory fragments of the deceased. Seongwu gets a flashback from the memory fragment of Vampire Manager Kim. In the flashback, Vampire Lord asks the managers about the true purpose of this game, but the managers have no answer for it. Vampire Lord tells them that he also has no idea about the game's true purpose, but he is sure about something, that they need to evolve into a completely different species and make a new world order. Vampire Lord tells the managers that he got a new quest. He needs their help with the quest, and he orders Manager Kim to procure food and farming supplies. They are going to lure in survivors and perform a great feast. Seongwu becomes pissed after hearing the plans of the Vampire Lord. Suddenly, he receives an exclusive quest called Master of Death. He needs to prevent or take advantage of a massacre. There are going to be many massacres in this world, but this one is specifically tied to Seongwu's destiny. He can either save others, or he can take advantages of the corpses. Hanho is trying to wake Seongwu, but his consciousness is inside the memory fragment. Hanho thinks Seongwu died because he revived the vampire, and he starts crying. Seongwu wakes up and tells Hanho that he will not die before him. He also tells them about everything he saw in the Vampire Manager's memory fragment. Vampire Lord is a bit frustrated because Seongwu killed his Vampire Manager even after he lent some of his strength. Madame Yang asks him if Seongwu can pose a threat to his plans, and Vampire Lord replies that Seongwu can't kill him with his puny skeletons. Madame Yang starts blushing with fear after hearing it. Vampire Lord tells her that after the Great Feast is over, he will search Seongwu using his curse and get rid of him. The next morning, Hanho informs Seongwu that something big is happening on the online forums, and it seems like the vampires are trying to lure as many players as possible. The post has been made by a guy named Manager Gu, and it is written in the post that they are welcoming all survivors and no one even needs to pay gold to enter their camp, and they can also guarantee their safety. Hanho is about to post a comment against that post, but Seongwu stops him. If people become alerted after reading the comment, then the vampires will be forced to alter their plans, and Seongwu will lose his advantage because he is already aware of their current plans. Jisoo-yeon informs Seongwu that she found a lot of useful potions in the Vampire Manager Kim's warehouse. Meanwhile, Hanho found a wireless charging battery item. They start charging their mobile batteries with it. Jisoo-yeon found a white-colored potion, and it's called Treatment. This potion can apparently treat and alleviate various infections. Seongwu thinks this potion will come in handy right away. Seongwu used the potion on Tesson's friend, and she became partially normal. Tesson and his delinquent friends are quite happy about it, and they thank Seongwu from the bottom of their hearts. Seongwu tells Tesson to keep an eye on their friend because if she causes trouble or gets possessed by the Vampire Lord, he will get rid of her. Seongwu further tells him that he didn't heal her for free, and Tesson has to do something later for him. Seongwu asks Hanho's dad, Mr. Lee, to use his skill. Mr. Lee gets ready to use his skill. After he uses his skill, a shield forms around their area, and this area can now heal all wounds as well. Mr. Lee has full authority within this area. Everyone starts feeling better because their wounds are healing. Hanho's mom prepared food for everyone, and this food can give different buffs to the consumers. It turns out no one other than Seongwu had received any exclusive quests. Seongwu tells Jisoo-yeon that she can stay behind if she wants, because this exclusive quest is not related to her. Jisoo tells Seongwu that even if she stays behind, she will be killed by something worse than vampires. That's why she needs to improve her skills. While they are talking, a new notification pops up. It turns out all survivors are on Chapter 1 of this game. The admin congratulates all players who have survived till now. Many lives were lost in the process, and those who couldn't adapt to this new world were turned into werebeasts. However, their trials and tribulations are just beginning. They need to fight back against monsters and humans alike. Only those who are bold enough will be able to survive. There are 4 further warnings in the message. This event is going to run for 7 days, and during this time, they are unable to leave this region of Suwon and Hwasong Fortress. The amount of gold that players will be awarded will be doubled during this event. Every time a second round player is able to defeat a werebeast, they will be given a chance to receive a combo card at random. A boss monster will spawn in every region, and players can get powerful items after defeating the boss. Sohan is quite pleased after hearing the conditions of this quest.